Good evening, I am Mahnia Nematullahi, graduated from Leiden University, the Netherlands. I would like to thank you for the gift of your time. I hope that when we leave this room, we become kinder, happier, and firmer. I want to begin my talk with a short introduction about the Iran-Iraq War, and then I will move to the School of Love, a love motif that is used during the war in the war poetry to inspire the young men to the battlefield. The Iran-Iraq War began on September 22, 1980, when Iraq attacked the border cities of Iran. And the war, it is said that is the longest conventional battle since World War II. The war left on both sides 1 million dead and 3 million wounded, and millions of homeless, and many cities were ruined badly. On July 17, 1988, Iran accepted the United Nations Security Council Resolution of 598. Ayatollah Khomeini, the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic, died 1998, compared the accepting resolution with drinking wine. He said that the war was a gate open to paradise, open to heaven, and now it is closed. The fight was legitimized by defining it as a conflict between Islam and blasphemy, and aimed to overthrow and punish the past regime. The roots of this conflict is not clear. Some historians say that it was the result of disagreement or conflict between Ayatollah Khomeini and Saddam Hussein, died in 2006. Some others say that it was the result of a kind of previous disagreements, previous events that happened, historical events happened when the Muslims attacked Iran, and some others believe that it is the result of a struggle between Safavids and Ottomans in 16th century. So I want to show now how the classical Persian poetry and the Persian mysticism that is interwoven with the poetry have been used in the new politics of the Islamic Republic during the war. So, I move to the School of Love. Love and its afflictions is one of the main themes in Persian literature. Lover endures pains and hardships for the sake of union with the beloved. The physician and philosopher Ibn Sina, died 1037, writes about the lover's characteristics that are hollowness of the eye, continuous movement of the eyelids, dryness and emaciation of the body, and tearful eyes. The lover denies himself in niyat in his search for the beloved. His pale and yellowish face and his emaciation shows that he doesn't eat well and he doesn't sleep unless he expects the beloved in his dream. The lover cries and laments in separation of the beloved. In classical Persian literature, the beloved is cruel, unkind, selfish, and beautiful, that may kill the lover with the arrow of his or her eyelashes. In the court poetry, the beloved may be a king, a vizier, a courtier, or a beautiful lady. The poet, naming the lover, praises the generosity, benevolence, and the power of the beloved to receive reward. Later, the most courtly elements were used in mystical poetry. The most famous poet, mystic poet who used these elements is Hakim Sanai Ghaznavi, lived at the end of 11th century and at the beginning of 12th century. He used these elements in order to encourage his audience to take up the role of the lover to become the achieved personification. For instance, in his divan, he writes, عشق بازیچه و حکایت نیست، در ره عاشقی شکایت نیست، حسن معشوق را چو نیست کران، درد عشاق را نهایت نیست. Love is not idle and narrative. One may not complain about the path of love because there is no end for the beauty of the beloved. There is no end for the pain of love. In mystical poetry, the lover is presented as one who suffers loneliness and extreme harsh treatment from the beloved, but expects no compensation. The lover is obedient toward the beloved. To show his obedience and fidelity, he offers his life. In love poetry, the lover learns how to abandon conventional education and to follow the path of mystical perfection. The metaphor of the school of love refers to spiritual purification that guides the mystic towards union with the beloved. In Persian language, the school is called both maktab and madrasa. The maktab is the traditional word. The word maktab means a place of education. It has been an important Islamic institution from the earliest days of Islam. In an Iranian maktab, the children learn to read and write from and based on the recitation and memorization of the Quran, and they read from the medieval Persian literature. In the Islamic tradition, education or tarbiyat connotes morality and discipline as well as knowledge. The medieval Persian mystics introduced the motif of the school of love in their literary works to express the process of spiritual elevation. Love educates the lover to develop spiritual and moral insight. To attain spiritual perfection, the mystic should pass through mystical stages analogous to the classes to purify his soul from negative character traits. On achieving each station, the mystic gains a better understanding of the beloved's beauty, and his desire for union with the beloved increases. The mystic poet Maulana Rumi identifies, this is a traditional maktab in Persia, from the Qajar period. The mystic poet Maulana Rumi identifies the school of love as a mystical stage through which one learns immediate divine knowledge, ilm ladunni, without participating in a conventional education using paper and ink. God teaches the lover to read divine knowledge from the tablet of the invisible world. He reveals the divine secrets to the heart of the lover. Thus, he attains the knowledge through divine revelation. In the school of love, a lover learns how to behave before the beloved. This proper conduct is called adab in Persian literature. A lover who wants to show his love for the beloved should not only behave politely, but also he should offer all his belongings and his life. Love teaches proper conduct to the beloved, which he cannot learn through conventional education. Maulana says that there is no proper conduct for the etiquette of love, but rudeness. He says, ادب عشق جمله بی ادبی است. امت عشق عشقهم آداب. The etiquette of love is nothing but rudeness. Love is the proper conduct for the community of the lovers. So he says that for a community of lovers there is no rule. They follow the principles prescribed by the beloved. So although their behaviors may look inappropriate by the community. The mystical motif of the school of love is adopted in a modern political context by Ayatollah Khomeini. In a ghazal, he writes, درد می جویند این وارستگان مکتب عشق هر که درمان خواهد از اصحاب این مکتب غریب است. These graduates of the Academy of Love are seeking pain. Only rarely does anyone seek a remedy from the members of this academy. He implies that one who attends the school of love finds his soul purified and attains a higher spiritual perfection. He has politicized the mystical motif of the school of love. In his sermons, he equated the mobilization unit, the Basij, with the school of love. He said, Basij is the school of love. Basij مدرسه عشق است. During the war, many youth were selected from the Basij units. The members were trained to offer their lives on the battlefield with passion in expectation of union with the beloved, meaning God. They considered themselves members of the school of love, and those who went to the battlefield and died, they were graduated from the school of love. The war poets employed the motif. For instance, Qaisar Aminpour, in his poem writes, هرچند عاشقان قدیمی از روزگار پیشین تا حال از درس و مدرسه از قیل و قال بیزار بودند، اما اعجاز ما همین است. ما عشق را به مدرسه بردیم. در انتهای راه روی کوتاه، در یک کتابخانه کوچک، بر پله‌های سنگی دانشگاه و میله‌های سرد و فلزی گلداد و سبز. He says, although the lovers of pagan ages, from the past till now, have been wary of lessons and schools, disputes and talks, but this is our miracle. We took love to the school at the end of a short corridor in a small library, on the stony steps of the university and the cold metallic fences, flowered and flourished. As I mentioned, the mystics say that conventional education was not required to attain spiritual progress. And here, Aminpour refers to this mystic's belief, saying that the lover is not interested in conventional education and is not interested in school. The lover is interested in the school of love, where love reveals itself and educates the lover. In other words, love deepens the lover's understanding of the worthlessness of the mundane world and the necessity, and teaches him the necessity of detachment from it. Although in mystical poetry, love is considered as an act of grace of God, in war poetry, love can be cultivated and developed in the heart of the lover. So, the small library is possibly the local being used as a recruitment office, and let me add that during the war, the soldiers were recruited from both schools and universities. And so the lover has chosen to be possessed by love in this poetry. When love for self-sacrifice is taught to the students, they will quickly respond to this religious mystical appeal because their heart is open. Another concept that is used in the Amirpur's poetry, and it is common in Persian literature, is that the lover's heart is fertile soul, prepared for the tree of love to grow. For the mystic, Ghazali compares the soul to the soil in which the tree of love, Shajaratul Ishq, grows, watered by the lover's tears. In the war poetry, it is the blood of the lover that waters the tree of love. Amirpur defines the school as a stage through which love grows. When the tree of love occupies the heart of the student, so there is no room for worldly desires, and he offers his life on the battlefield. The school of love has a teacher of love. معلم عشق, or in Persian, the equivalence of آموزگار and استاد are used. For the mystic poets, God is the teacher of love. He is the universal teacher, and he is superior to any ordinary teacher. So I refer to the poem by Maulana. He says that God teaches the lover to read divine knowledge from the tablet of the invisible world. The poet writes, مدرسه عشق و مدرس و جلال ما چو طالب علم و این تکرار ماست. The teacher of the school of love is he, the owner of glory. We are like a seeker of knowledge, and this is what we repeat. The war poets use the motif, but they introduced Imam Hussein as the teacher of love. He is the third Shiite Imam who was killed on the plain of Karbala by the order of the Umayyad Caliph in 680. He is the symbol of, he's an example of love and self-sacrifice for the Shiites. In the war poetry, he teaches the soldiers to offer their lives in battle to preserve Shiite Islam. War poets say that Hussein offered his life in battle because of his passionate love for the beloved, and that he serves as a teacher of love, encouraging young men to go to the battlefield and give up their lives. For instance, the poet says, چشم از جان جهانی دوخته، از برادر عاشقی آموخته، هر که را باشد حسین استاد عشق، لاجرم داده به کلی داد عشق. He closed his eye to the soul of the world. He learned love from his brother, Hussein. Everyone who has Hussein as teacher of love, there is no doubt that he does justice to love. The poet refers to Abul Fazl ibn Abbas, Imam Hussein's half-brother, He is the archetype of love and loyalty in war poetry and in Persian passion play. Because of his exceptional behavior on the day of Ashura, 10th of Muharram 680, when the Sunni Umayyad Caliph, with the Sunni Umayyad soldiers buried Hussein and his companions from water. The children cried bitterly, so Abu Fazl galloped to the Euphrates several times to bring water. And so his hands were cut off and then he perished. The poet identifies Hussein with the teacher of love and Abu Fazl with his student, using this historical event to encourage young men to go to the battlefield. The poet writes that on the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein was the teacher of love. He taught the brave Abu Fazl to choose death over life. Therefore, a student should not be afraid of death, because through death he receives reward in the hereafter, and the beloved God will reveal himself to him. And in tradition it is said that Abu Fazl received 2 green wings in the paradise. And the teacher of love has a book that the student recites from it and learns the lesson of love. In an Islamic context, the archetypical book is the Quran. In theology, several words mean book. The word mushaf, often translated as codex, denotes one of the first collections of the Quranic material. Another form of the book is law, usually translated as tablet. The Quran refers to a tablet that is preserved in heaven. Lawh Mahfuz. The classical love poets introduced the book of love to their poems to emphasize the necessity of purifying the heart, the sight of love, which is comparable to the preserved tablet. As with the tablet, the divine will is written on the tablet of the heart, and nothing can be erased. The heart is the center of one's understanding of divine knowledge and the location of zikr, the remembrance of God. And perfects the soul. God knows what is hidden in the heart, and on the day of judgment, one's actions will be judged on the basis of his heart. The war poets use the mystical motif of the Book of Love to define self-sacrifice as a spiritual stage, in which the soldier reads divine secrets from the preserved tablet of his heart. In mysticism, self-denial may be considered as a prerequisite for self-sacrifice on the path to perfection. In the war context, the soldier who denies himself becomes capable of understanding the divine secret. So the poet writes, بر لوح عشق نقش مقرنس کشم. آذین رواق باغ و گلستان کنم. I am making engravings on the tablet of love. I will adorn the threshold of the garden of the rose garden. Muqarnas is a way of decorating and incising of a half dome in Islamic architecture, especially in mosques. The poet compares his heart, Lawh-e-Ishq, literally the tablet of love, to a mosque which he decorates with engravings or incisings. As the mosque pattern looks pitted, it resembles a battlefield covered with shell holes. The poets used other secular words such as daftar, notebook, and prologue, dibache, to convey the same message of self-sacrifice. The contemporary poet Mohsen Ali Khani uses the notebook of love. The poet writes, این دفتر عشق از حسین دارد، رخساره خون چهره شیرین دارد. گر خاطر درگاه عزیزی خواهد، دل بردن از او واژه خونین دارد. In the notebook of love from Hussein we find the following. What sweetness there is a blood-red complexion. If one seeks acceptance at the threshold of the beloved, and to steal his heart, he should use words stained with blood. The notebook of love is linked to Hussein's self-sacrificial behavior. Self-sacrifice is a heritage he has left for the Shiites, and it is preserved in the notebook of their hearts, as the poet says. The poet compares the soldier to a suitor who, if he wishes to become accepted by the beloved, should paint his face with blood. Now I will conclude that during the war, the mystical love motifs were used to encourage the soldier to sacrifice their lives on the military front. The soldier came to believe that the battlefield, as the school of love, is a shortcut to the heaven, and that in the fighting is self-sacrifice on the path of love that will lead to ultimate union with the beloved. In other words, the ultimate union with God. Thank you very much.